Yeah.
Anyway, good. Well, thanks, everybody. I'll call to order the meeting of the Ad Hoc Grant Search Committee. It is January 27th at about 5:34. So we will have hopefully a relatively concise meeting. I know there's another meeting at 6:30, Kate, is that right? You're going to the school board one or not?
Yeah, I'm gonna listen in.
Gonna listen in? Yeah, okay. We should be done by then. We're not gonna be
No,
as painful as the last one.
it's not painful.
Well, anyway, so with that in mind, I don't believe we have any public out there. This is open time for the public. If there's anybody there, I don't believe so. I will make a note that Easthampton Media has posted now our first 3 meetings, so they are up on the town website. So in case you want to refresh your brain about anything, they're there. So that's been good. So with that in mind, we have some old business, and I wanted to go back, and I don't know still if you've had time, but I'd kind of like to approve the minutes if we could from a couple of the earlier meetings. Let's see if I can get this one up. Let's see, wrong one. So there was one from December 30th that I would ask if people would just take a skim through. This is pretty much our first real official meeting after we had been appointed we had our charge confirmed by select board. And this is when we were still, let's see, we were just getting going to talk about mass trails. We had already put in the small town capital grant, which by the way, we haven't heard anything on yet. And then we were just talking in general, I think, about how to approach whatever we were going to do with the Greenway. So this was basically that information. And we were talking about the second possibility, which was the land water conservation grant. And then there were going to be webinars on both of those in the following days, which I was going to attend. So that was essentially what we had talked about. Does anybody have any questions about that? Do you want me to scroll it again, or do you want more time to read through it, or are we kind of okay to post it up?
I think that looked great.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I have one question.
Sure.
I have one question since it's underlined.
Yeah, where?
I know Concom's an abbreviation, but isn't it usually done with 2 capital C's? And I may be doing it wrong.
Oh.
So.
Well, no, I guess my edit is telling me something that I missed, maybe, or maybe it just doesn't recognize the word. Well, I'll change it. Officially, the other version. Anyway,
that's possible.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yep, you're right. Yeah, very good.
I think there's another one further up. Go up, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's one close to the top. Yeah, right there. Yep.
And another one. I see them both. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for that. Yep.
No, thank you for changing.
I
appreciate it.
No, we'll get that. Good. Okay. Done. Okay. So with that in mind, if I don't hear any other corrections, could we have a motion to approve the minutes for December 30th, I believe it is.
2020. So moved.
2020, yeah. Okay. Have a second?
Second.
All right. And could I have a roll call vote, please, for the voting members?
Brooks, aye.
Gibson, aye.
Fetterman, yes.
Diana, yeah, you can vote now.
Yes.
And Fowles, aye. Okay, thank you. All right, so that one is dealt with, and I may have one more here too. Let's just find it. And then this would be the one for for January 7th, and I bet you the same issue with Concom could possibly be here, but maybe not. This was essentially kind of the report out of the 2 phone calls that I had one with Amanda from Mass Trails and Melissa from whatchamacallit, from LCWF. And so this was basically the report out of our conversation, where we had decided that it probably at this point in time wasn't worth going through the LWCF one because they really weren't interested in only funding design work without construction, and that didn't look like it was going to be a feasible thing for us whatsoever. And so this is kind of where we made our decision that we would go toward mass trails at this point in time. Actually, I don't see Concom mentioned, so maybe you skip this one.
There you go.
And then we were talking about needing to reach out to KP Law about the letter of intent, getting an idea of the legal costs, et cetera. So this is what we were deciding before we actually started working on it. And then we started working right after this meeting by having the document set up in Google Docs, basically. So that was it. Those are the first 2 meetings that we have. So if that looks kind of okay to everybody, could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, could I vote, please?
Gibson, aye.
Go ahead.
Brooks, aye.
Okay,
Fetterman, aye.
Fowles, aye. Okay, great. Thank you. We will call them approved. Very good. Okay, so then back on to our continued old business. We are rapidly approaching our magical February 1st deadline for mass trails. We've gotten some good information. I think I will share up the Excel sheet first, just to kind of go through that. It's newer information, and I did send it around last night just in case people had a chance to look at it, but I think it might be good to just kind of go through this. And given that Ed had talked to the legal folks, he can, chime in on anything that we're thinking about behind the scenes here. So the way I'm understanding their crazy template, they said to keep the format as is, but we could add in lines if we needed to. So I don't believe we have any direct project personnel per se. So I put our legal services under other consultant or consultant line and other. And then these are in talking Ed with KP Law and Ed and myself, kind of dividing them up, one in terms of a lot of the legal research and just back and forth communications that has to happen, various closings and filings, as one chunk of what the legal folks would have to do, estimating that at $25,000 over the year period. And then it does look like there may be some sections of the railroad, from what KP Law remembered, that are not technically are they owned? I don't even know it by the railroad, but we will probably have to go look for some arrangements with the butters and try to acquire those easements. So maybe Ed, you could explain that a little bit more for what your discussion was.
And due to COVID, all their files are in their office and they're working from home, but Katie's gonna go in and see what she can find, even though we don't have for the application process, but moving forward, it'll be important for us to know that. But she did remember that there seemed to be at least a few areas of that track that the railroad may not have clear title to. And I will liken it to the term a paper street, which Paul is maybe familiar with. There are 3 levels of streets out there. There's an accepted public way. There's basically a private way which has been carved out and is basically on a plan, but the town has never accepted it as a public way. There's also a thing called paper street, and I'm gonna liken it this right away. And paper streets were drawn up for development or whatever. They were never carved out really separately on a deed. They were intended to be a street, never were. Generally on those paper streets, you've got 2 abutters, one on each side of it. And technically those abutters, while they do own out to the center street line, they are not like allowed to put sheds, trees, bushes, whatever that blocks someone's right of way to pass on that. So Katie does seem to remember there's some areas like that. So there may be some instances where we have to negotiate with those abutters to have the clean right to put the greenway through that. And like I say, what happens is, you'd have two abutters, one on each side of the road that would technically own up to the middle of that. So, and originally way back when put this together, at the time before we found out we couldn't use CPC funds for this, we knew at least the agreed upon price to purchase from the right away was $340,000. The other $35,000 that was thrown in it was kind of a ballpark estimate by myself for any possible attorney's fees. And I know that basically surveying the tract would be actually a much bigger cost than even the $35,000 is in this particular instance, but was thinking of permits, licenses, closing costs, filing with the registry of deeds, things like that. So $35,000 was a little high. So excuse me, Chris and I had talked about it, and I said, okay, we really don't know how many abutters we may have to end up negotiating with at this time, but I know the $35,000 is high just for legal fees. So why don't we pull out, $10,000 and earmark that for acquiring easements or right of ways or ownership from any of the abutters that may technically own out to the middle of that tract. I mean, it could have been easily been $15,000 as a 10, but I said, let's start somewhere and earmark something for it. So,
Yeah. Okay.
And if anybody's even got any ideas on additional costs that they might be aware of, that we, instead of saying $25,000 in legal costs, maybe that's, I don't know, 20 and something else is 5 or whatever. I'm open to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, you had mentioned too, we had talked a little bit about legal folks helping us, draft the article for town meeting, just to get that done, kind of like it'd been done for Clearwater or the Pomeroy Meadow one of, the town gives us permission to go ahead and try to acquire the right of way, contingent upon, getting grant funds or something like that. The issue here is a little bit sort of the chicken and the cart before the horse in a way, because the town meeting, if all goes well, normally our annual town meeting would be in May. We definitely won't hear anything about this grant based on what we've experienced this past year before July. So we can't spend on anything pre-grant award notice. So, I was going to put something in there about, for example, doing a little bit of public education, doing some flyers or postcards or whatever to the voters to get them kind of ginned up about the prospect of the Greenway. But then I took it out because I figured that's all pre-grant stuff. I mean, pre-award notification, most likely. So I didn't think there was I couldn't think of any other services or things that we needed to pay for. Does anybody else have any clue? I mean, that would have been just photocopying and postage. That wouldn't have been much more than that. But if we did any kind of flyers, and I think we still will need to do something like that for the town meeting, just to get people understanding what we're doing, but it can't be charged to the grant. So I think it'll just be volunteer time and costs. But any thoughts of other services we might need though, guys? Anybody?
I would just say that when we did get Clearwater, we had a couple of meetings like that, and we sent out postcards, and it was a fabulous success. So I think it's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we had 200 people at the meeting.
Really? Yeah. No, I think we probably do need to do something like that. So as we get closer to a real town meeting time, it's just that we can't charge anything to the grant, as far as I know, prior to having a notice of a grant award. So whatever we do is out of our own dime, basically, at this point in time. But I agree with you. I think that's a useful exercise.
Well, there is a little bit of money at Kestrel Land Trust earmarked for Southampton. I don't know. It's earmarked for conservation. I don't know if this would count for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can think about that when we get closer to it. But at this point in time, as you know, we put in for the $100,000 grant for the small town one, which, maybe we'll be lucky and hear something on that before July. And otherwise, we've got to figure out how we can do something in our budgeting process, which is going to be really challenging this year because we can't use the CPC money, as you know. So what I ended up doing here on the last column of our match fund secured, I put in process. I figured that was vague enough to not attract too much attention at the present time. So all these others are, oh, come on, get out of here. All these others are basically not relevant to us. Let me scroll down. And then I ended up adding in cost of acquisition as a new part of the chart. And so basically, I need to change this. It's letter, I keep confusing this, but it is letter of intent as I looked at it. It's not letter of interest. Okay, so letter of intent between the railroad and town, and that was the 300,000. So part of our match has got to be the 40,000 comes out of that. So that does break us down directly to the 80-20%, which is the minimum that they require. I know, Diana, you said you guys did a bit more on the match just because it might look better if we were more involved. I think we're probably stretching it right now to get at the 75. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to get this if we don't get another grant.
I don't know that
yeah.
really made a big difference or not. We just
Yeah.
we did that.
Yeah, we're hitting all the minimum. So I think the minimum of the 20% and the maximum of 300,000. So I think that's as good as we can do.
Mhm.
And then let me see if I can swap over. This is the crazy timeline thing. We'll just look at it real quick. So I don't know. Kind of this template was giving me a little bit of a hiccup, but I think this is what it looks like. So working from July to June and going through the steps that we could think of and what KP Law had told Ed. So grant award, getting it, filling out whatever documents we have to do. And then the first main thing is the railroad has got to file the petition to abandon the trail with the Surface Transportation Board. What then comes would be the town requesting this notice of interim trail use, also with the Surface Transportation Board. And then along with that were two other things, but I made them a kind of a separate step in the same month. The statement of willingness to assume financial responsibility and the request to establish a public use condition. Anyway, all that garbage, legal garbage has got to happen. So I'm arbitrarily dumping that right into the October timeframe. I'm trying to stretch it out a little bit, but not too much. And then the railroad, I think, Ed, you said something about they had like 10 days or something to respond to that and agree if they wanted to enter into negotiations with us to do this. And the odd thing was, right, that opens up a caveat that once there is a PUC out there, I guess, any other or another railroad could come in and say, oh, we want to use the line again or something. Is that right? That was the little caveat. It sounds totally unlikely.
Yeah, it's just the same likeliness that, Pioneer Valley, 25 years down the road wants to re-energize this, section of railroad.
Yeah.
So.
Right, yeah. So anyway, so that I didn't even bother with that. So anyway, we're going to assume that they enter into the rail banking and negotiations. Oops, I forgot when I put that as the beginning. I just scrolled down here too much. Wait a minute. So I'm thinking in December sometime, I'm saying that the process of negotiation sort of formally begins, and this is part of this whole thing where we may have to do some negotiating with some of the abutters. Sorry about that. To acquire any easements, but then hopefully getting it through and doing any legal filings at the registry. And then I'm assuming that there's got to be some final report on the grant or whatever submitted to Mass Trails. So all of that I kind of shoved over into the May, June of next year. So looking at probably that, whatever that is here, this December, 5 months sort of negotiation-ish time. And then concluding it hopefully by May was what I'm thinking. So does that look reasonable to anybody? Does it seem odd? Or am I too what? I don't know. Anything, any comments?
I think it looks great. And I feel like to break that down, I didn't realize that there's so many steps involved with trying to make this happen. So it's nice to kind of see the timeline laid out.
Yeah, well, that's where I didn't realize it either until I started reading that letter of intent again, and it had all these, couple, well, not all, but they had a couple of things in there about filing to abandon the rail line, and so that's what spurred on the request. And I'm glad KP Law was able to give some detail there. At least it sounds like we know what we're in for. So, any thoughts on that? If not, we'll take that. I'll just get rid of any other extraneous words on here, but.
I think it looks
that-
great. Can I ask one more question about the budget overview? Sorry, my dog was spazzing out earlier because my neighbor is snow blowing.
Yep.
So if you look at the estimated 130 hours over the year at $190 an hour, that I wonder if that should be above the acquiring easements because it applies to the $25,000 in the first section.
Good point. Good point.
And a Butters has 2 T's instead of 3.
Oh, really? Where's
But
that? Oh, yeah. Okay.
yeah, it just it was a little bit. I just multiplied it out, so it would be applicable to the 130 hours would be the $25,000.
Yes, that's what I was intending to do. So I think that's a good point to move that up. Let's see if I can do this without.
Who gave us the $10,000 number for that? Is that for you?
Ed and I dropped it off out of the 35.
I pulled it out of the air, Paul. I said, rather than just listing $35,000 as for legal fees, why don't we pull out some of that money and put it in acquiring the easements? Because we're probably going to have some costs. I mean, could have as easily said, okay, let's pull 15,000 out and put it there. It's just best guesstimate.
I think it might be a lot more.
Yeah.
For easements, okay.
Yeah, and I had a project across the state that was, let's say it was 4,000 feet in length. And I remember the DPW director who was our client telling me he thought it was like 30,000 for that.
Yeesh.
So,
Well, I mean, we can up
Well,
it.
are you talking the temporary easements for the project or actually acquiring the rights to the right of way?
acquiring the temporary and permanent easements through an assessor who's going to basically create evaluations for the takings.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not even considering temporary ones here. So, I mean, we could just as easily make that 15,000 and drop the legal to 20
Yeah, I know,
and do the calculation of
I don't
how
think it
many
matters
hours
at this
that comes out to.
It probably doesn't. Yeah.
Later.
I'm not sure it really, well, I don't know if this ends up being a real definitive budget that way, but maybe.
Yeah,
Let's see if we-
and they may allow us to, adjust it or whatever. So,
Yeah,
Well,
So-
when we got the Manhan Meadows grant, it was less than what we'd asked for, so we had to submit a revised budget and they approved it, but it was a pretty simple process.
yeah, okay. So who's got your calculator there? Take your 20,000 divided by 190. How many hours does that give us?
105. You
All
said
right.
20,000 divided by 190. Yes,
105.
that's 105.
Well, I'm gonna put 100. That's good enough.
Okay.
Close enough. Okay, good. All right, now that's a good catch, Kate. I think that's true. Maybe I should make this, I could make another space in there if that's clearer too. Maybe I will. That's just easier to read. How's that? Or I could put that, actually, I could put that over here too. That might be better. What do you think? Then at least it's over there under the legal, so then it's clearer what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect. I think that looks beautiful myself. Yeah, well, you know,
So let me ask.
Yep.
Let me ask this now. You got other services legal.
Yep.
So now where you've got where we have acquiring easements from abutters, should we have other services, something else? You know, additional acquisition cost or something?
Wouldn't it still be legal that would be involved in all that though? I mean, doing the negotiations, and is there any other service besides
Well,
the legal? Yeah.
Well, I'm actually looking at the dollar amount that would be paid to those abutters
Right.
rather than the
Oh, I see.
legal.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So yeah. Okay. So, well, maybe that doesn't belong there. Maybe that goes down into, instead of cost of equipment, we make that cost of acquisition. Or what's
Okay.
that last one? Or the one I created. Wait a minute. The one I
I
created.
think the one on the bottom is cost of acquisition.
Yeah, I made that one. So why don't I can move that down there? I won't waste our time doing it, but that's a good point, Ed, because that can all come in. I think that's a very valid point. Yes, thank you very much. So we'll move all that, this part here, this 15,000, we'll dump it down under the cost of acquisition. Perfect. And we'll still end up with the same totals. Okay. Does that sound all right to everybody? Okay, I'll do that. Yeah.
Sure.
Cool. All right. Can't think of anything else that we need to talk about on that part. I think that's decent enough. Did anybody have a chance to look at the maps and figure out what maps we might want to include? There was the one that was in the feasibility study that showed the 3 segments very clearly, kind of a black and white, maybe with a red line through it map. It's in the map trails folder. And then there was also the topographical map, which is green and curvy lines. And then I don't know about necessarily putting in each of the segment maps. I don't think that really does anything better than that overview the overview black and white trail map one. But I didn't know about anything else from the Rails to Trails. Was there anything that was a clear map that we got out of their brochure that was worth adding, or shall we just put in the 1 map or the 2 maps, or do we not even want to bother with the topo map? I didn't pull them up. I'm sorry. They're in the mass. Yeah, shoot, I should have. I don't think I did. No, I didn't. Sorry, I didn't pull them up, but maybe we can, after the meeting, you could just shoot me note as to which one you prefer. I think we could add more than one. So we've got, just for attachments while we're on it. So at this point in time, we would try to do the feasibility study and do the compressed version that Paul did. We'll do the letter of intent. We'll do the Mass DOT form. That's 3. We've got at least 1 map, if not 2. And then there is a page that I put in the folder that has maybe 3 or 4 photos on it as a PDF file. Not thinking of anything else at the moment. I don't think we need to put in any of the other studies at this point in time for any reason. Anybody thinking of something that I'm overlooking here? And again, those will be the very last things that we do is, upload those. I haven't done that. So, but they do exist.
Well, if you look at the application, it says include a map that shows these specific direct connections to support your narrative. So I think it wants it to tie it into different community anchors. So I feel like as long as we have a map for that, it says it will upload a map of project location and extent. I think, I don't know, I feel like either of those maps would draw that out, but that's why I thought the segment map would explain that pretty simply.
Well, the trouble is there's 3 of those. There's a map for each segment, which So you
Oh,
get,
see, I feel like the one of the 3 segments together, I don't know.
yes, yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. That's the one I would like to use. That's what I'm saying is the black and white one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The other one that
Okay, I thought you
shows,
said it didn't add much. I'm like, I feel like that's a good one.
no, that one is the good one that has, I think it's got the rail line in red or something, and it shows it connects to Easthampton and
Yes.
so that one's a good one. That I think was in the feasibility study. But the ones that show the individual segments that are kind of gray and yellow and show the houses and whatever, I don't think those really add anything to it. So anyway, we've got maybe 2 maps. If we think the topo map, kind of just as an overview, maybe not bad as well. The other thing I had on a different basis, the grant, Ed, the grant that you and I talked about from that we got notice of from Velas's office. There, I told you that there was no link for their webinar, so I called and said, "Where's the link?" So then we started talking about grants in general and what we were doing, and his legislative assistant said that he might be willing to put in a letter of support for us on this. So would we like to do that?
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Okay, so what I told her I would do would be to try and just summarize. I won't give him the whole application, but just summarize. I think he's somewhat familiar with it anyway, but we could summarize
Yep,
2, 3
yeah,
paragraphs. Yeah, he's well aware of it, I think, right?
That'd
So,
be great.
so we can do that, and hopefully, if he could turn that around, then we can add that onto it tomorrow too, which would be great. So I think that's kind of it for attachments. I think that's all we need to do. And then just lastly, and we will not go to the painful links that I went through last time of every section here. This is the application. And again, I've already started entering stuff in, so things are moving in the online version here. Let me just get here now. Come on now, puppy. Come on now. Where are you? Come on. Whenever I want to scroll, it doesn't want to scroll. Come on. There we go. Okay. Okay, it's working. Okay. Alrighty. So we are basically not too much has changed. The 2 or 3 sections I just wanted to focus on that changed a little bit. And I did last time, I think I had put 80,000 in here just to see if we could be over the 20%, but I think we're fine with 75. So I knocked that back down. The site location, we had a couple of extra sentences here that I knocked off at the end because this really just does answer the question without going into any super extra information. So I think that one is pretty straight. Get out of here. Go away. No. Don't do that. Cursor in the wrong place. Okay. Let's see. I think this was all there from last year as well. Last time we met. The publicly owned, we said yes. And then we had some other stuff. I think it's here where I had written up something about possible parking at the north and south end and on East Street and whatever. There is no place in the online form to do that. So all it wants is it publicly owned? Yes or no? So that was easy. Didn't have to do anything more with that. Same thing with the minimum federal requirements for state and federal for accessibility. It will not let you enter in anything more than yes or no. So got rid of a lot of narrative there too. No purchase there. We've got the PNF and the number of the project at DOT. This garbage, get out of here, come on. The trail. Okay, so this was our short paragraph that they use for some of their PR kind of work. And then this was the new section. So this essentially is the narrative of the, I'm just gonna knock it off here since we're looking at it. This is a section that is the narrative of what we just talked about on the timeline. So maybe just take a second if you haven't had a chance to look at it, but this is the same thing we just talked about on the timeline. Okay. I think that's, and I don't know why we need starting and ending points again. We already did it in the question above, so I think this is good enough, frankly.
I saw that and I also thought, I'm like, well, this is kind of an acquisition. So it's not like we're actually building the trail. So I thought it was
Right.
redundant.
Yeah, and I don't think it applies enough to worry about it. I worried about too many small things on this that are probably totally irrelevant. So I think, I think all this is pretty much right out of the time frame. So if that's okay, moving on. And the critical gap here, this we had looked at last time. The one thing I think I did here is I moved up the Rails to Trails Conservancy. I think that was somewhere farther, or it was in another section. But I put it up in here. It's actually this one sentence is in here twice. So it comes up in this one right at the beginning, because it's all tying into this, the Bay State Greenway stuff. So it's all this critical gap information that needs to be
So
there.
Chris.
Yep.
Chris, since it's asking for critical gap, that's like it's like in the first 5-6 words. Shouldn't we bring front and center the discussion about the second paragraph? Basically, almost feels like it's begging to be in the first sentence, because it's talking about connection to Easthampton and Northampton as well as Westfield. So I would almost feel like, to their point of getting the important stuff first, maybe we reconsider getting that to the front.
Would you put the entire second paragraph before the first, or just a sentence of it, you mean?
I think we need to either reword it to basically use the connection, which is critical path, because it's asking for the critical network gap. And that answers that question in the second paragraph. So, I mean, does it flow right with it being in the front? Maybe.
Well, let's just see. We'll try it and see.
That's the most vital part of that question.
So let's see how it reads. Just take a second and go through it.
I think it's a good decision because it's just a little more less technical at the
Yep.
beginning.
And is it repeated at the end? Do we have it twice? Okay, you just didn't erase it.
She's gotta cut it.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I was gonna say, how did that get so long all of a sudden? There we go. Perfect. Yeah, okay, I like that. No, I think that does lead to, okay, it flows all right to me. Yep. Good suggestion. Okay, because it just does talk about, the missing link in the regional trail network, and then it goes into why that's important. I think that's okay. I like that. Okay, perfect. Alrighty-o. All right, and then our favorite little section that we struggled with, Kate worked on this and we've tinkered back and forth, but I think we got something that kind of works right now. Let's see.
Like this section was like the biggest struggle because we're trying to tie it to other communities, but I feel like it tells the story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'm relatively okay with it now. I think so. So tying in with Easthampton and their OSRP, and then Westfield as well. And then we did talk about the other population groups. So we talked about the seniors and youth, which were the other parts of that question.
Mhm.
So, it's hard to know if we're giving them more than what we need to, but I think, without getting too, flowing, too wordy, I think this is important information and should help our argument, I would think, because they do talk about, if you look at the question again, which I can find again, it's just, talking in here about, so underserved populations. So that's part of what they consider the environmental justice communities. So we've got a relevance to some income issues here. We've got a little bit of minority information here about non-English speaking residents, and then we go into elderly and children. So I think we've hit several of the points in there with a whole little look of that. If anybody disagrees, feel free. And then this is a little bit of a new section here in terms of just tidying it up. The underrepresented voices, and this was non-English speaking low-income populations of color or population. So this is a new couple paragraphs here, just to see how that fits. And I will say what the second paragraph is something Kate found is a chart in the Easthampton OSRP on their ethnic and racial diversity. And it's a comparative chart between us, I think Westhampton's on there, Holyoke, Westfield, Easthampton, and it's broken down by ethnic group and the percentage in each town. And so that's where I'm coming up with this combined total of their residents is where that is coming out to be.
I think
So
it's worth
that's-
including. I was like trying to pull as much like detail about demographics out of the many
Yeah.
different places, but I feel like we've touched on every possible
Okay.
area or part of the question.
Is it clear that when I say combined though, I'm talking about the combination of Easthampton and Westfield? Is that clear to anybody reading that for the first time?
Combined total of them. I think that's fine. I mean, I think that makes sense.
Or shows their combined total, maybe? I don't know. No, not really. I don't know. I think I don't know. Any thoughts, Paul, Ed, anybody, Diana?
Mm.
So I
Either
mean,
way, this is not like the best question for Southampton.
I know,
Right.
I know. That's why I was trying to make it something, more relevant in terms of our neighbors, and that's why I thought it was important to put in both Easthampton and Westfield. I mean, they made the point in this study in Easthampton that even though Easthampton is about half the size of Westfield, their racial makeup is
This is similar.
is very similar, in terms of the percentages of African American and Hispanic. But then that's where I took their combined percentages that I thought maybe that gave a little bit of weight to it. But let's not spend time on it, Diana. I'm gonna give it to you as my editor in chief here to give me if you think there's something that could be clearer, just to let
I
me.
just don't know that you need to say combined total twice. I think
Okay.
you probably, other than that, yeah.
Oh, I see combined total of 2.7.
Yeah.
So you could say just 2.7% of residents and 11.2%. I think you could probably take out combined total twice. You're probably right.
Right.
Take it out in both places?
No, no, take it out the second time.
Oh, okay. And okay. And
11.2% identifying as.
oh, okay. Yeah, that might help. I got you. Okay. Yeah, I thought I had to use the word combined somewhere, so that's what I was doing. But okay, I got you. All right, good enough. We won't belabor the point. The readiness. Now, this is stuff that Paul has provided, so I think we're pretty done with that. So this was talking about the engineering and permitting kinds of things that we're expecting. So this is Paul shortened it quite a bit, but it's still got a lot of information in it that
It's comprehensive in its
Yeah.
nature.
I think it is. I mean, and we're trying to know that this is what we're looking for, because they're asking what's already been accomplished, what's anticipated. So we're trying to say that when we get to it, this is what we're anticipating, right? So now the one I think we didn't include in here specifically, Paul, it's in a later question, is on the endangered species. I don't know if we wanted to throw that in as one more set of initials in here, or is that?
I don't think I think that's covered in the early environmental and during the
Okay,
permitting.
under the
Yeah.
MEPA one. Yeah, okay, fine. That's what I didn't know.
Yeah, so they'll be discussed there.
Okay, and we do mention it a little bit later on. And then this environmental review, I think last time you thought that that needed to be in there, so that's there. So I think this is pretty comprehensive, right? Okay. Close enough. Oh, I know.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna go with the fine tooth comb because it might be over their head.
Yeah.
I think when they look at this, they're gonna be like, oh.
And
okay.
they're getting a lot of applications this year, so
Yeah, yeah,
your eyes might glaze over.
yeah, could very well be. All right, let's see. And then the community support here, I think, talked about both the open space and master plan as we did last time, and then the friends being formed now that hopefully can be involved in the future here. Why did I have that in there though? Wait a minute. Public involved in the project selection planning. Yeah, I guess that would be a question whether that like belongs there. I'm just noticing something there that I don't know. Excuse me.
I did wonder if it was worth calling out in the last paragraph about how opinions have changed since the last surveys. I just didn't know if it was going to be like, well, have we gotten enough updated public opinion? Like, I feel like we had outlined that we got more recent public opinion in 2020 about 74% indicated support or strong support.
Of those that responded, yeah, right. But that's only a fraction. I mean, we had a great response on the master plan community survey. We had close to 20% response, but that was only what, almost 900 people out of 4,500 eligible people. So we can't say that we've really got town support yet. 800 or 900 people is a lot more than will show up to any of our town meetings. So I feel that that's okay. I mean, and I think it's fair to say that, I mean, not that there won't be still some opposition. I'm sure some of the same people, if they're still around, will still oppose, but it seems to me that there's a greater groundswell of support now than there might have been 10 years ago. I don't know, Paul, your thoughts?
I'm hearing the same thing. I think there's a lot more support, and I think if we're able to get the message across of its importance, we'll certainly be able to persuade and discuss with folks why this is so important.
Yep. Okay. Good. All right. Well, I'm going to run down quick. I may come back. I'm not sure that this paragraph fits in there. That seems to belong to a maintenance question that I'm wondering if I misplaced. So I will just look at this real quick. And then all this, I think, is pretty much there. We had the bike path as last time. This one about the disabilities one, we had this part up here last time about the shared use and the grading, and then that Route 10 part we were talking about last time got changed a little bit and added in here. So I think that answers that question, and just basically put it in here that it's going to be fully ADA and 521 and AAB compliant. So I think that really kind of answers that kind of question. And then the portion on the high quality unique experience is the same as it was last time, and that talks about some of our historical features, and then abutting into the Manhattan Meadows now. So that's there. And then just jumping down real quick, one thing I struggled with, and I finally backtracked and did something opposite from last time. Remember last time we had these yes, nos, and I ended up going through and changing them all to no, because it's not our project. This project doesn't do this, right? But we know that, and if it allows me to enter in any narrative, I will put this narrative in. But in a couple of cases, it may just be a yes, no question and there's no place to add it in. And given that this is really an acquisition project, technically it really doesn't apply. So is your project, well, I mean, I don't know. What do you think, guys? I struggled with it. I've gone back and forth. Is it yes or no? It should be consistent all the way through, whatever it is. So the project, the acquisition project, yeah, I don't know. I can talk myself in and out of it 5 times, I'm sure. So I'm willing to hear
Is that something we should run past somebody? I know time is short, but
you know, I could try to give Amanda a call in the morning and see if I can catch her. I'll have to go back in on the online and see if it allows us to even put in any narrative. If it allows us to put in narrative, then I'm pretty okay with what we've got here, because we've couched it, only after the right of use has been acquired, or,
right. Well,
well,
there is narrative there. I don't know what you mean.
at some point there, like here, there's a yes, no, and down here, there's a yes, no. And there's three places where there's a yes, no. So it may only allow you to check yes or no box and not have any narrative. I don't remember on the thingy itself. But if nobody's objecting to it, if I can put in the narrative, I will. I'll try to, why don't we leave it like this? I'll call Amanda in the morning, and if I can, and see if I can get any advice from her about that. Given that it is just an acquisition project, would she recommend we put in any narrative or not? How's that?
Sounds
Close enough?
good.
All right. All right.
Sounds
and then
good.
we'll end up here, and then so this was the same thing. Will the project occur within the this whole priority habitat stuff? So again, whatever we put, we should be consistent kind of all the way through. It's either all yeses or all nos. But then there is a bit of narrative allowed here, and so just saying that it runs near the Manhattan River in certain locations, possibility of rare and endangered species being found. When we conclude the rail banking, the extent will be determined through the MassDOT design permitting process.
Chris, just going back to this question that we're on the fence here, I guess.
Yep.
We talk about steps that go way beyond this project, which is the
Yep.
acquisition. There's a whole design component, there's a whole permitting
Right.
discussion. We answered in the affirmative, so I feel like that gets rid of everything that preceded this section if we're taking a no stance.
Okay. So you'd vote for yes on all these questions and try to keep the narrative then.
I feel like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It is really still a bigger project, even though this acquisition, the acquisition will result in the next steps. If, you
Yeah.
know,
Right. It's hard to
It's not-
separate them.
It's
Yeah.
not in isolation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll go through and mark them all yes. Easy enough. I'll do that. Good. So that's basically the end of the application, guys. That's it. There's nothing else. The last section is on equipment, which doesn't apply. So is everybody generally okay with that? And if so, I think I would like to have a motion to say, yep, this is basically it, and allow me to enter everything in and see if we can send it away, maybe certainly Friday morning at the latest, if not tomorrow night.
Mhm.
Does that sound good to everybody?
It
And
does. And when you upload all those documents, they need to be PDF.
Yes, okay, right.
And there's not like a place, like if you load one PDF in an other or something category, that's all you can load there. So if you need to combine them, you can make a PDF with more than one map on it or something like that.
So wait, Dan, are you saying they can only allow one PDF to be uploaded?
Well, I think isn't there like 5 sections or so at the end? No, not one PDF per thing. Like it will say map. So you upload one
Yeah.
PDF to it.
Okay,
And then the next one says budget, that one. And then photos, documentation, something like that. It's just one attachment, I should say. One attachment, which has to be a PDF. Like in our case, the example is we had 3 or 4 letters of support, but there wasn't enough space to put 3 or 4 letters there separately. So my son combined them all into one PDF for me.
one file, yeah.
And that,
Okay.
yeah, one file.
Okay, so then this, but the 6.5 is, you can add up other stuff that doesn't, so like, for example, well, the letter of intent or the project documents. So I think the letter of intent and the tip, maybe I could combine into one
Yeah.
one file.
Like if I would say, okay, I got one there, now I'm gonna put another one, it would get rid of the other one that I'd already put there. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Okay, all right. Well, I'll see about that when I get there, but we'll have the study as a separate one in here someplace around here. I guess a lot of it's going to be under project documents though, but then it could be under this additional project documentation though, right?
I guess it's possible that you could put more than one and you might not see the one you'd already put there, but I didn't know that. So.
Yeah, but at each point though, Diana, at 6.2, for example, it'll give you a chance to upload. At 6.3, it'll give you a chance, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so then when we get down to 6.5 down here, I'm thinking that, you know, that could be like where the feasibility study goes or something like that.
right, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, with that in mind, could I have a motion to say we like this baby and we want to go with it? Or not?
Motion to allow Chris to move forward with this.
Somebody
Second.
All right, can we have a vote, please?
Brooks,
Give-
aye.
Aye.
Bullseye. All right, let's do that and say that that's what we're gonna do. So thanks, guys. I will do some final looking and get stuff ready to get in the pile by tomorrow, and I'll check in with Velas's office too and see if he's really willing to give us something by tomorrow. That would be nice.
You know, who else might, and I just suddenly thought of it, Lindsay Sabadosa. I bet
True.
she would.
Yep, no, that's a good point. I think I know Lindsay, I can reach out to her too. So I think I will do that. Whatever I write up for John, I'm just gonna do a summary and I think I could do the same to her and that would be fine.
Yeah. I'm sure she'd be happy to.
Sounds good. All right. Good, guys. Well, I think that's basically it for now. I know Kate's got to run to another meeting and we're just right on time at 6:30-ish. So
Yay.
I think we can pat ourselves on the back for all the input we put in here and call this one a quit. Quit.
Mhm.
Almost done. And we will keep on looking for there's a couple of other grant possibilities that have come across my desk that I might just send some information out ahead of time to read. And I think we can certainly wait a couple weeks to schedule anything more. Nothing urgent coming up that I'm aware of. So could we think about another date? I'm looking at maybe I don't know, we were doing Thursdays. Is that a good time or not? The 11th is a possibility, or we could wait until like the 18th. What makes any sense to anybody? You know anything offhand by your schedules?
I think the 11th would be great.
Want to try that, and then we can always try it, and if we have to cancel it, we will. And I will try to get things organized better this time. So yeah, okay. So we'll say that the 11th at 6 o'clock for now, and then if you look later on and find your schedule is booked, just shoot me an email. We won't post it for a few days anyway. So good. Well, thank you, everybody, and Paul, thanks very much for all your input here. And I hope you take this news back to the Greenway guys and let them know that we're trying.
When do we expect to hear?
Not really until July, from what we know. I don't know that there was any interim communication, was there, Diana, after you
No,
submitted?
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a while.
That's a long time to keep your fingers crossed.
I know.
And your
So,
toes.
again, if there's something else that comes up, we'll keep going. I mean, we can't put all our attention in just one or two sources here. If there's something else that looks like it's relevant, we'll see if we can knock another one out. But we gotta see what else is out there. I'm going to take a closer look at Kate's spreadsheet, because I think there was something up. I know the park one I'm thinking is not until summer. It's a little bit out. There's another couple things that are like April, May. There's nothing else that comes to my mind that's an immediate
No.
deadline that I can think of right now anyway. So let's go with the 11th, and if we have to change it, we can. How's that? Okay.
Sounds perfect.
Great.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Good.
Motion
Good.
adjourn.
All right. Motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Second.
Second.
All right. Ed, go. Yep. Ed.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Brooks, aye.
All right, Paul's aye. Let's call it adjourned. All right, and thanks, Paul. And bye to Bradley.
Good night.
Good night,
Yeah.
Enjoy the
everybody.
Play-Doh,
Bye.
enjoy the Play-Doh cupcakes.
Oh, I can't wait. They smell great.
All right, thanks,
Bye.
guys. Appreciate
Bye,
it.
take care. See you, Paul.
See
Bye-bye.
ya, bye.
Bye, Diana. Bye, bye, Kate.
See ya.
See you, Chris.
Yeah.